California, the most economically and culturally powerful state in the United States, home to a plethora of brands that impact our everyday lives no matter where we live in the world. In fact, this very video you're watching was published on a platform which was originally founded in California. Needless to say, it would be an understatement to say that without California, our lives would be vastly different. Without California, we wouldn't have tech giants such as Apple and Google, which would make the digital space a lot different than it is today, for better or for worse. Additionally, many of our favorite actors and artists wouldn't exist. Big names such as Hollywood and Disney would have never been created. But most importantly of all, the United States would lose its #1 cash cow and would lose a significant portion of its population. As of today, many Californians believe that their tax dollars disproportionately subsidize other states, sending more to the federal government than they get back. Over the past decade or so, California has flirted multiple times with the idea of independence, but with no decisive actions on the behalf of the state officials and the population, such an independence remains highly unlikely. With that being said, what would happen if California successfully seceded from the United States and became its own independent country? We'll start by looking at California's geography. California covers an area of 423,970 kilometers squared. This would make it the 59th largest country in the world, above Paraguay but under Iraq. Additionally, as of 2025, California has a population of 39,663,800 people. This would make the new nation the 39th most populous country, right under Canada's 40 million residents. California's growth rate remains, however, relatively fragile, barely managing to be above 0%. This could prove to be an issue in the future if the new country doesn't put in place policies to grow its population, either by promoting immigration or childbirth through government subsidies. In terms of topography, California is a beast. Its highest point is Mount Whitney, standing at an incredible 4,418 meters tall, making it the 25th highest mountain in North America and the tallest mountain in the continental United States. On the other hand, Death Valley's Badwater Basin is the lowest point in all of North America, with an elevation of -86 meters below sea level. In terms of climate, the majority of California is characterized by a Mediterranean climate, with cool wet winters and dry mild summers. In more desert areas of California, summers can be very hot, with significant temperature variations between day and night. Places with high elevation receive substantial snowfall in the winter, supporting ski resorts and contributing to the state's water supply. California is also home to one of the busiest ports in the world, receiving and shipping goods all over the world. And it's home to one of the largest coastlines in the United States, making up over 1/4 of the entire country's coastline. This would place California in the top 30 countries with the longest coastlines if it was independent. In terms of demographics, California is extremely diverse, with a plethora of different races, ethnicities, all living together, creating a very cosmopolitan environment in many of the cities of the new nation. The country would also be linguistically diverse. While the official language is English, spoken by about 56% of California's population, nearly 30% speak Spanish, and an additional 15% of the population, equivalent to 6 million people, speak other languages. A beautiful reminder of the diversity of the newly founded country. California's largest city by population would of course be Los Angeles, followed by San Diego, San Jose, San Francisco, and Fresno. The nation's capital would most likely be Sacramento, as it's the current state capital, while the financial capital would obviously be Los Angeles. When it comes to the economy, as of 2024, California had a GDP of $4.1 trillion, making it the 4th largest economy in the world, only behind Germany, China, and the United States. The economy is mainly driven by the service sector, making up approximately 75% of the economy, and encompassing finance, insurance, education, entertainment, and much more. Around 10 to 15% is driven by manufacturing, and a small 2% is agriculture. California's GDP per capita would be a staggering $104,000 per year, putting California in the top 5 countries with the highest earners. For reference, the current US's GDP per capita with California is around $86,000 per year. Despite the high per capita income, however, California notoriously struggles with a high homelessness rate, with a little less than 200,000 Californians being homeless, not to mention the high unemployment rate, which is even higher than many less fortunate countries in Africa, Asia, and South America. As far as military goes, California would inherit the California National Guard with about 24,000 personnel, including Army and air components, with helicopters, C-130 transports, F-15 fighters, and special force units. Another thing to mention is that while California technically hosts nuclear weapons on its territory, it's unlikely that the United States would let the new country keep them, since the federal government controls all of the country's nuclear arsenal. So the federal government would have to come to some sort of agreement with the newly born country regarding the usage of at least 100 nuclear bombs, as well as other nuclear weapons located in California. Lastly, an independent California would likely push for strong trade and business ties with China to reduce its reliance on the United States, something that China might see as an opportunity to expand its influence right into the US's back door. But given that California is still a democracy and would most likely still be allied with the US and the EU, it might be risky to fully pivot towards the Eastern Bloc. The US might see it as a threat, and in the worst case scenario, we may see a similar situation to what's happening in Ukraine unfold in North America. So it's likely that California will try to stay neutral, engaging with both the US and China without leaning too much towards one side. All in all, an independent California would be nothing short of a global powerhouse, economically, culturally, and strategically. With its massive GDP, world-famous tech and entertainment industries, and sheer diversity, California has everything it needs to stand on its own. But with great power comes great risk. Independence would bring serious challenges: population growth concerns, rising inequality, unresolved military arrangements, and geopolitical tightrope walking between the US and China. Whether California thrives or stumbles as a sovereign nation would ultimately depend on how it chooses to wield its power, whether it doubles down on its progressive ideals or decides to go a different route. One thing's for sure: if California ever did leave the United States, the world wouldn't just be watching, it would feel the shockwaves.